Hi, my name is Sharon Gaita. I am excited to share my story today. I get this a lot how I ended up in the film industry of Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, my story is as a young child, I was an active child, always leading music and dance and drama, always in all activities of the school. In fact, I was sponsored till about senior four. I had sponsorship most of the time in school. So when I was little, my parents, my mother, wanted to sign me up for these acting things, and unfortunately there was none for children. I remember then there was, I think, Bakaibira and the Ebonies. They were the only ones doing drama and they weren't working with children. So of course the dream died, but of course I remained a what? An active child. And moving forward, here I was at first year at campus. I saw a job on Facebook by Extreme Casting, and they were hiring a talent agent. Honestly, I didn't know what that meant, but I knew what the requirement. I read through the requirements and I sent through all the requirements. I think some of the requirements included taking pictures of people, taking pictures of locations, different places, and some other things I don't remember. I was at Uri learning to use computer. I just went back to hostel, paraded all my friends, borrowed a smartphone. I didn't own one, and I took their pictures. I went to all the bars we had frequented. Yeah, we went, took all their pictures. They allowed us, even the small restaurant we used to dine from, took the pictures, submitted, and ta-da! That's how I got in. I served the company diligently. I was good at what I was doing. 2 years later, I left. I had saved up some money and I decided to do business. Guys, business is not for the faint-hearted. It played me. Of course, I lost all the money in the first 3 months and I started struggling. I quit a job that was paying me for about 2 years and I saved up money. Money is over. I had no job. I'm almost winding up school. Of course, what happens to a young girl in that state? Depression. That one almost killed me. I went through that phase, but luckily, I had a support system of a family. I went to my sister's place. I rested, I relaxed, I got some time to think what is going to be next for my career. And that was the time I asked myself, am I going to be a businesswoman? That was the same time I'd finished graduation. So I was asking, should I go and I continue with accounting and finance? Or should I be a creative? I did the math. I couldn't afford accounting and finance because I had to put in some more years of SSEA or CPA and more money. Business, definitely I was failing at. I already failed. I mean, it brought me into depression. So I was like, creative industry. And that's what I did. I went back to the creative industry and I was lucky to go to what? To Maisha Film Lab. I got a job as a production coordinator at Maisha Film Lab. That place elevated me. I was working with Phoebe Cora as my boss. Oh, that woman is so fast. By then I couldn't handle, but because of her leadership, I learned to work faster. I learned to work with different funders that they require a lot of things, the nitty-gritties. You don't leave any stone unturned. But as I was there also, I was going through the programs like the directing masterclasses, the producing, all the lessons. I was there for a year. And that year was very, very helpful. It put me back on my feet, but it also gave me a sense of direction of what I want for myself. Moving forward, the company was closing. And on my way out, I got a project, my very first independent film project. This was Mercy of the Jungle. And I think it's the most successful film I've ever worked on. I worked on that project as a casting director. Guys, for the very first time, they were paying us, I think, I was paid $100 per day. And during that experience, I thought to myself, wait, people are paid this much money. I was on that project for 2 weeks. I was treated like a VIP. There was a van to take me around, to take us around. I was getting per diem. We were sleeping in a very good hotel. Meals like nothing, we like having 3 meals, snacks, drinks. Oh my God, I was like, wait, people live this life. So I got some money. And of course, young girl, I put myself, I got a nice apartment. I filled it up with stuff. Yeah. And a week later, I got another international project. Same amount of money. It was also about for 2 weeks. Per diem. Also the luxury was there. I loved that experience. But this time around, I was wise. I used some of the money to open Ideal Casting because I thought if an individual can get paid this much, how about when you're a company? I registered the company, did the logo, did some other small things. And that's how we started our briefcase company. This is in 2017. I think I registered it in November. And January, I started calling people. Hello, I am casting director. Would you mind giving me some work? Of course, it wasn't easy. It was heartbreaking. In fact, I remember I used to cry whenever a project never came to me. I would, when people give me jobs and I submit and I share a report and I see it later. I know that's the funny thing about our industry. You can see the project you're quoting for later on film, like a week later, and it's showing on TV. I would break down and cry, and I'm like, oh my God, why does this happen to me? I am a good casting director. I know what I'm doing. So I went through that phase, of course. But also, I am grateful for some people that held my hand. They took chances on me. I would give an example of Swans Avenue. I think for the first 2 years, 2018, 2019, I got some work from them. And this industry is very funny. When someone says you work with those people, they are like, oh, if you can work with those people, I can give you work. So about 2 years, they were giving me work. And they boosted my portfolio. I started working on like big projects because of them. And long story short, 2019, 2020 came, guys. And that's where my life turned around. This awesome gentleman came into my life. He was called Mantas Veradavicius. Yes. When he came, he wanted to shoot a sci-fi film. Honestly, the first time I heard that, I'm like, a sci-fi film in Uganda? You're kidding. But I worked alongside that gentleman. He was so brilliant. 2020, I signed a contract around April. I signed a contract to do casting for the gentleman for that sci-fi film. I remember it was a $10,000 contract. And I think 2 weeks later, lockdown happened. And you know how whites are. They are true to their word. I signed a contract, so lockdown happened. I was still getting paid. Of course, I ate the money. I threw parties. Remember, it's lockdown. Nothing is happening. And I still did my job anyway. I would do a lot of research, share images, call people and everything. Of course, I did. I still did my job, but the money wasn't as had to work for, like, of course, our people. Anyway, 2021 comes. It's a good relationship. And the end of 2021, my life turned around. How and why? Mantas calls me. We were just from shooting a documentary in Mbale, and he calls me for a meeting. I used to meet him like at least once or twice in a month. He calls me for a meeting and he tells me, Sharon, there's something I want to discuss with you. We go, we meet, and guess what? Gentleman asks, I would love you to be my producer. The guy tawawe, a producer. Never in my wildest mind had it ever crossed my mind. But there's where he pointed it out. He's like, Sharon, you have done so amazing. You have done more than casting. You have led the teams. And I remember, like I said, we're just from Mbale shooting a documentary, and this was lockdown. I remember he struggled with permits, but I made it happen. We went guys, we shot a documentary for teenage pregnancy in Mbale with teenagers. I won't go into how conservative some environments are, but I made it happen. We shot during lockdown. We shot, and I made a lot of things happen, like shooting a bat scene, like an actual bat scene, and I was almost making an actual operation happen, but because we're waiting for someone, and I won't go into that. Anyway, he tells me, you're so good at your job, and of all the people I've interacted with, I am choosing you. I started thinking, I'm like, actually, I do a great job. Actually, I've been doing a lot of producing more than casting. This is when things start to make sense. That's what a producer does, blah, blah, blah. But of course, that's not only what a producer does, but we had that conversation and we went into it in detail. And this is when the gentleman asks me, no, I asked him that what? That can we, how I don't have credits, I don't have credits, and he said we can always work on that. He could add me to his IMDb profile as his producer and some of the projects he had done. Then then the school, he had friends that teach. He was also a professor. He was like, of course, you can attend some of the education online, and those my friends can get you certificates. Then he was like, you also go through some training with his other producers. So he's like, let me introduce you to my network of other producers. And we started the Zoom calls with these other producers. Of course, they were amazing. Me, I was loving everything. Meanwhile, in this period of time, I am in Uganda, but I'm not in Uganda. Like, my mindset had moved on. I wasn't. I'm looking at Ugandans like, mwe. Eh? You people, life will humble you. Anyway, long story short, guys, we make the plans, we start booking the tickets, we start booking festivals, we start applying for funding. And he had said that Africa is the next big thing. My producers think that if we go with an African producer, we are we have more chances of what? Of getting more money. He had got some money, I won't say it here, a lot of money that we had used anyway during the pre-production processes. Anyway, 2022 comes. And that's when things turned around. Around March, end of March, April. It's been long. Yes, he tells me, sure. He calls me again for a meeting. I'm going away to film something. For 2 weeks, I'll be back. It was his thing. He would go away, come back for like 2 weeks, For us, I was used to that. We were all used to it. Unfortunately, he didn't come back. What happened? Of course, he was shot in the Ukrainian war. Sad part, on his way back, he was done shooting. And okay, that's when things turned around for me. But then I mourned him. It was a hard time. He was a very, very good person, and I thought he would. I mean, he put me at a level, and I thought he was going to take me further with him. But when he died, I came back to Uganda mentally. I started double booking jobs. I double booked. I started getting now work from Uganda. It was hard. You know, when you work smart, now you work hard. And when you work hard, you're not being paid. Your mental health. There's a lot of things that were happening that I wasn't used for at least for 2 years. And I'm like, okay, this is my new life. Back to zero. Let's start a life. And you know, funny thing, when someone dies, there's a way, it's like their blessing sleeps with them. All the people he had introduced me to, of course, the conversations were there, but they started reducing and becoming slow. And and that's how they dried out. I gave up. I started my life. And towards the end of 2022, God blessed me again with another international project. And with that international project, I got some good money that helped me set up Ideal Casting as an actual office with a location. And we opened shop, and the rest is history. And Sharon now is doing producing, is doing casting. Producing and interested in the financial part of producing, of looking for money, distributing money, overseeing the creative process as also, but the money bag. I'm very, very interested in that part. Yes. Thank you so much. And the lesson I would take from it that has changed my life is no matter how much things are going well in your life, keep the grind on. Like in that period of time, when everything was well, when I was making money, I gave up on my local connections. I gave up on that, and coming back was really hard. In fact, up to now, I think I did that hustle for that year. Ever since then, I reduced on the projects I'm doing locally, mostly film. Yeah, I do a lot of brochures and documentaries. So it teaches me that even when you make 100 million today, do not chase the 100K tomorrow or the 1 million tomorrow. Keep it like you don't have the other. Keep getting it like you don't have the other. So that's something I learned with my experience, but I also look forward to growing more as a casting director and growing more as a producer. Thank you so much. If you have anything you want to know about me, ask.